Hi, we're live. Hi, everybody, for joining. Today, we're so excited to have Michelle Eng with us. Before we introduce her, though, we're going to show you what she does and how cool her video game orchestra looks like. So, without further ado, we're going to show you that right now. All right. Oops.
At first glance, orchestral music and video games may seem worlds apart. Sometimes the most beautiful music can come from the most unexpected pairings.
Oh, sorry.
Super Mario Brothers, Donkey Kong, or Pac-Man, anyone who's ever spent time in an arcade or with a game controller has a favorite video game. But have you ever stopped to appreciate the game's soundtrack or imagine how it might sound performed by a full orchestra? A group of University of Maryland students has done just that, turning their passion for gaming and music into something much more than child's play. Founded in 2005 by Michelle Eng, the Gamer Symphony Orchestra brings together a diverse group of students from all majors who share a love for gaming and music.
The Gamer Symphony Orchestra is the first collegiate level symphony orchestra that is dedicated to video games.
All right. Okay. Yeah, that was so cool. And without further ado, we're going to bring Michelle to our live stream. Hello. Sorry, I'm going to change this. Hi, Michelle. Welcome.
Hi, Clover. Thanks so much for having me.
Yay. Well, I'm sure the audience have just seen how cool your video game orchestra is like. And now Kelvin is so excited. He commented earlier of how cool this is. So I'm sure he has lots of questions for you. But we're going to dive into your story and your background and how you came up with this whole idea of creating a video game orchestra in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely. So how I started my orchestra, I would say my journey actually starts when I was 9 years old. That's when I
Wow.
first learned to play the violin. And then when I was 14, I switched to viola. And so I've been very involved in my school orchestra as well as my youth orchestra growing up. And, I was participating in, orchestras all the way through college. And I also grew up playing video games, so like Nintendo.
Mhm.
I've also played like Mario, Final Fantasy, Zelda, you name it. It's just been a big part of my life. So, how I started the video game orchestra was in 2004. I saw like video games live, Dear Friends Final Fantasy, and the video game pianist online.
Mhm.
And so this really inspired me to combine two of my passions together. And so when I was in college, I had this idea like, hey, it'd be really cool to play video game music. And I actually,
Yeah.
I felt like as an orchestral musician and this being my passion, I felt that, I just wasn't satisfied only just sitting in the audience watching other people play this. I wanted
Oh,
to be
yeah.
there on stage myself and playing the music that I loved and grew up with. So I think it was 2005. I actually just emailed my conductor of the university orchestra I was part of, and I said something like, "Hey, I think it'd be really cool to, play video game music. What do you think?" And he said, "Why don't you make an announcement at the next rehearsal?" So I did, and that's kind of how it grew. I got a few people from that orchestra, and then I went to advertise it at other ensembles on campus, and I did a lot of flyering. I created a Facebook group
Wow.
and, put on listservs to get the news out to students so they could, join my orchestra. So that's kinda how it started. Um,
Yeah.
but, to be honest, in the beginning, I didn't even know if it was gonna work or not.
Right.
I had no idea if anybody would be interested, but, I would have to really thank my conductor, Paul Kim, who gave me the encouragement to, take a risk and put myself out there.
Yeah, that is amazing. I know that you said you're an introvert too, so that adds the challenges and difficulty to put yourself out there. So how did you overcome that?
Well, I think first, having somebody else encourage you,
Hmm.
even just like a little bit, does a lot to help you kind of push you out there because you might have an idea like, hey, I want to do something, but like, what if they laugh at me or something? Or what if people don't like it? But if somebody
Right.
else sees that, why don't you just try it? You kind of get confidence from that, that somebody else sees that your idea is a good idea. So
Mm.
it's just like taking a risk. And I would say that you sometimes have to take a risk and see what happens, and even if
Yeah.
you fail or it doesn't work the way you want to, at least you have learned from that experience, like what to do for the next step. So
Yeah. I love
I would
that.
yeah, and for me as an introvert, it was not the easiest thing because I was the kind of student who would never like being called on in class. I never raised my hand in class,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
I would get very nervous.
Yep.
Um, but I would say this experience running an orchestra, every week I had to be organized and, talk to a group of people that at first I didn't know them, but then they became
Right.
friends. And so,
Oh.
there's an element of like kind of public speaking where you have to, um, speaking to people. But I would say preparation, like being organized and kind of planning your week out of, hey, this week we're going to do this, next week we're going to do this. It helps you kind of, I guess, kind of makes you like a little bit less nervous because you kind of know what to
Yeah.
expect.
Yeah.
But a lot of it is just like planning it and then kind of executing things and taking a leap of faith.
Yeah, yeah, good for you. And I know
Yeah.
that courage, it's like a muscle that you cultivated, and now you're using that to other areas of your life as well.
Yeah.
I know you have a story to tell.
Yeah.
If you want to kind of tell the audience what you've done, like because you met your idol
Oh my
type
god.
of thing. Yeah, yeah.
Oh my god.
And that really, it's the buildup of what you've done in the past to how you're able to do that, right? So if you don't mind sharing with us, if you feel
Okay.
comfortable, yeah.
Okay, so the coronavirus, um, when everything happened, I was furloughed from my job. So then all I suddenly had all this free time, and then I was like online and stuff, kind of watching like videos, and I came across a show called Scam France. It's a French TV show. It's about the lives of teenagers and different different social issues that they deal with. And then one of the actors from the show, he's a French actor, Maxence Donnet-Fauvel.
Okay.
He plays one of the characters in the show, and I fell in love with the show. It was so beautiful and symbolic and cinematic, and French cinema so romantic. and
Mhm.
so I saw this convention, this online convention that they're having on October, I think it's October 3rd and 4th, but I saw only the night before on like Instagram. And then I was like, they said, "Oh, you can sign up to do one-on-one with the actors if you want from the show." And I was like, "Seriously? Like I can speak directly to the actor." And keep in mind these are people who have hundreds of thousands of followers on social
Mhm, mhm,
media. So I was like really intimidated.
mhm.
And I remember I was in Whole Foods at the time I saw that ad for that convention. And then I was like, "Oh, I'm too nervous.
Mhm,
I can't do
mhm.
this." And then I put
Yeah.
my phone back in my purse, and then a few minutes later, I was like, "Well, what if, if I don't do it now, what if it's sold out?" Because these are like celebrities, and so I thought to myself, "Okay, take my phone back out and like close my eyes and then hit the buy button." And then, well, before I did that, I just stopped, I just stopped in the grocery store, and I feel like time stood still, and I thought to myself, if I do it, my life's gonna change forever, and if I don't do it, it's gonna go in a completely different direction. So, it was like one of those I knew, like, later on in my life, this is gonna probably be one of the most pivotal turning points, and I don't know what's gonna happen, but I had a hunch that this was
Mm.
one of the most important points in my life. So I closed my eyes, I hit the buy button, and then I said, "Oh my god, I'm gonna talk to him tomorrow." And I was so scared because, like to talk to celebrity directly is kind of
Mhm.
like overwhelming experience,
Yeah. Mhm. Mhm.
and then like part of me is like, oh, what do I talk to him about? Like,
Mhm. Mhm.
and then so it was the one-on-one was like just 3 minutes.
Right.
And I had to get up, like, at 5 a.m. to do this, and I was so nervous the night before. I couldn't sleep, and
Oh, it's
then
so adorable.
yeah, I was, like, so nervous, and then,
Yeah.
and then, I got up early 'cause, it's in Paris, so their time is, like, 12 something, so here I had to be up by 6 something, and
Mm.
then I had I got up and I was, like, waiting, and I was so scared, and then when he finally came on, I was like, "Oh my god, is this for real?" Like, it's like you kinda feel like it's not real, like it's surreal, you know? So, I talked to him for a couple minutes. I was kind of, like, starstruck,
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
but he was so sweet, and he's like, "Oh, where are you based?" And, we talked about, like, a little I asked him, like, what song does he like from the show, and, like, a
Mm.
little bit about how's the convention going for him and things like that. So, um, it was a really great experience because I would say that's one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life is to have the courage to do something difficult like that because, it's like with anyone, like any celebrity, like they're your
Mhm.
hero and you admire them so much and you have so much respect for them, but at the same time, you're terrified of them.
Yeah.
So,
Intimidating.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, you're like very intimidated because like they're just so incredibly talented and um, I don't know, I was just awed by the experience. So, I would say that experience after I did that, it gave me more courage to do more, like, difficult things because you think it's, like, this high, and then you realize, "Okay, it wasn't as bad as I thought," and
Yes.
then you can aim for, like, higher things and bigger
Yeah.
things.
That is so inspirational. Thank you so much for sharing that story because it's so true. It's like I love the way you narrated it as well. It's like the build up, the fear, and all the thoughts that are coming in as you're experiencing that and kind of how you overcome that. That's super inspirational for any out there hearing this right now because I think courage doesn't come from not feeling fear, it's doing it anyways, right? And you perfectly
Mhm.
demonstrated that. And it's like you're just going to be better from here. So I love that. And
Yeah.
we have Jesse here in the audience as well, listening. And when you were talking about having a hunch, I know that you watched Facebook Live earlier when Jesse was the intuitive coach that was coaching me on my intuition. And apparently, you were telling me that it helped you tap into your intuition during that live session. Do you mind sharing that story? Because that is also so powerful as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think when we first talked, I mentioned that I'm an intuitive person, and
Hmm.
then you're like, "Hey, you should check out the coaching sessions I did with Jesse." And so I checked them out, and I watched all. I think there was like 3 videos,
3, yeah.
so I watched all 3, and
Aw.
then I forget which one, but one of the ones you're doing the exercise where
Hmm.
you have to close your eyes
Yeah.
and kinda do the meditation, and
Hmm.
one of the things was, um, like, where is your part-time money gonna come from? Like,
Right.
right the money for right now, and then where's your full-time money gonna come from?
Hmm. Hmm.
So I kinda paused the video so I could kind of do it myself
Yeah.
in that point in time, and, it told me that my part-time income for right now was gonna come from, like, rental income because I have a condo that I wanna rent
Hmm.
out,
Hmm.
and then it's also gonna come from my, part-time violin teaching because 'cause I'm teaching violin as well right now.
Hmm.
And then for the full-time income, it said it's gonna come from artistic performances, like live performance, and I was like, "Well, how do I do that if the coronavirus is right now?" But then I thought about it differently. I thought, "Well, let me start online because I have a Twitch channel where I do, like, live
Yeah.
streaming. So let me use it as a training ground so then once COVID opens, the world opens up, I can go back to do real life stuff."
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then, the second thing, for full-time, it was like, saying that you're going to be doing consulting and you're going to have clients from your. So I have a YouTube channel and podcast called Gamer Symphony Dreams, where I teach people how to start and run their own video game orchestra. And so my mind was like, okay, it's going to be that. And then the third one, I was actually not expecting. I was really surprised by, and I got a vision in my mind, and it said documentary, like,
Wow.
or maybe cinema or something like that.
Right.
My vision was that I was in a movie theater watching, like, something on the screen with other people in the movie theater,
Right.
and, so I was kind of, I wasn't sure what that was about, but today I I got another vision where, I would be maybe I don't wanna, like, jinx it or whatever, but, um, I got a vision today where, um, one possible first step for that would be to do a documentary on one of my friends,
Mm.
and I actually haven't told him yet. I don't know if he's watching right now, but, I had a vision because he's a film composer, and he's worked very close in the film industry, so I had
Mm,
a vision, like, to do a documentary about him, and then, like,
that's
go
amazing.
screen it at the film festival.
Wow.
Um,
So your intuition comes to like visually.
I think yeah, I get it visually. I would say, it comes to me as a vision, like, there's, like, an image in my head of what I guess what it should be or what I should be doing.
Mm,
I don't know if it's necessarily like a premonition or like a predictor of what's definitely gonna happen, but
mhm.
it shows me an image of, I think, what I should be doing.
Right, and
Um,
guiding you. Yeah, like Jesse says, when you least expect the vision, it's very likely from the universe. It's guiding you there.
yeah, like the vision I got today, I was just driving home, so,
Yeah, and
um,
it's like coming out of nowhere, right?
yeah, I was like, "Why did that appear?" You know? And
Yeah,
I wanted to bring up the other thing that we talked about that was kind of,
right.
um, the thing with the
Like the
orange thing.
color? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'll kind of preface it. So I, during the coaching call with Jesse, I was envisioning that I would have a seminar, right? And so when you watch that part, you envision something for me.
Yeah, so when, Jesse asked you, like, "What do you really wanna do?" and you're talking about the
Yeah,
seminars, and
yeah.
immediately at that moment while I was watching your video, I had a vision appear in me, and you were, like, on stage with a microphone, like, in a hotel or a conference room with, like, these people, and um, you're on stage, but I had this very strong feeling of there's a lot of orange in the background, and, like, the hotel room or the convention center, wherever the room's located, there's a lot of it was all orange, oh, very warm orange all around you, like, in the background, and then I mentioned it to you, and I was like, "So, when I watched your video about that," I said, I saw that there was a lot of orange in the room with you when and you look so happy doing your work."
Oh.
And, I said, "But I noticed that your logo is green,
It's
right?"
green, yeah,
And
and
then
that's when I said I actually had it in my mind to change it to orange. So and that was like, "This is not made up, this is for real." In my mind, I was actually thinking of switching it to orange,
Uh-huh.
and that's why it's like, wow, it is the universe, like, really telling you, and your intuition is so on point.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it. But yeah, I felt like, like you kinda get chills when when you see things like that, you know?
Yeah, which is so cool, and thank you so much for sharing, and then from then on, I kinda start changing the colors
Oh,
to orange, yeah.
yeah, you're
Yeah,
welcome.
yeah, and, Jesse was saying, yeah, that's what I saw for Clover too in the hotel conference
Oh,
room filled with
really?
people. Wow, okay, too intuitive telling me now. It's like, better make that happen.
That's so
That's
funny.
amazing. Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, now we're gonna
Yeah.
kind of segue a little bit because you're a very unconventional Asian. You were born in the States though,
Mhm.
right?
That's right.
But you did live in China for a bit. So like how long were you there for?
So I lived in China for about 1.5 years. I was there teaching as an English teacher.
Mm-hmm.
I was teaching university students in southern China.
Mm-hmm.
So I was there like I think 2009 to 2011.
Right, right. And that experience kind of changed you, right? Once you came back.
Mhm.
And I remember you telling me how you almost like have a reverse culture shock, and the way you relate to people became different. And I think with me, I'm kind of a 1.5 generation Asian Canadian. And even though you're a second generation born, you know, American, you now relate better to the 1.5 generation, uh, precisely because of the experience, right?
Yeah, well, I would say that, it helped me feel a lot more I could lot relate a lot easier to 1.5 and even the
Hmm.
immigrant generation.
Right.
I still relate to the second
Of
generation, but
course. Yeah.
there's aspects that the second generation doesn't have because they didn't live in Asia,
Right.
necessarily. So there's just some things that are, that I feel like I can connect more, well, not necessarily more, but I would say there's certain aspects that the 1.5 generation has experienced that I feel like it's easier for me to relate to them now.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, so like living there, I would say definitely had an impact on me.
Yeah. And I guess right now with our Asian community, we're always trying to find our own heritage. So it's a great way to experience, if you can actually live there when, all this coronavirus is over. It would be great to kind of, yeah, go back to, our motherland. And that really helps with our own healing and understand where our parents come from too. So, in terms of talking
Mhm.
about parents, I'm sure because you're doing something so unconventional, you were an accountant, and compared to what you're doing today, did you get any resistance at all?
In terms of my family, I think
Hmm.
my parents, their main concern was just be able to support myself financially, but
Yeah.
they never really pushed me in terms of, oh, you have to be a doctor or you have to be a lawyer, that kind of thing. They're pretty
Mm,
open about like, do whatever you need to do to like kind of support yourself. But I think I would say um, I would say it's more like they didn't know. I think as immigrants, like unless you come from a musical family or you come from a
yeah.
creative family, they might not necessarily know, like, the particular nuances of, like, how to be successful in an art career, for example.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
a lot of that I had to, kinda meet my friends who are in the music industry and
Yeah.
kinda get mentoring from them when
Hmm.
it comes to kind of making that transition.
Right.
But I would say just in general, I think people aren't used to I think people are taught to go to school
Hmm.
and do well in school to get a job, and this is just for everybody,
Yeah.
and then once you go to college and then get a 9 to 5, job with benefits,
Hmm.
retirement, that
Hmm.
kinda thing. So
Yeah.
I think, to be someone who's unconventional, you have to be someone who's creative, and you have to be someone who, is not afraid to take risks, and I think some people, like, they feel more comfortable to stay inside the box, so they won't necessarily take that risk.
Yeah.
Um, so I would say
Yeah,
that I
what would you
think
say to the audience out there? Like, what would be like one tip that you would give them if they want to transition from, nothing wrong with being traditional, by the way, but if they want to kind of, force their own path, what would be one thing that you recommend to them?
um So normally I would suggest don't quit your job until you
Hmm.
have something lined up or you have like a side hustle or something. But in my
Yeah.
in my case, it was different because I lost my job during the pandemic. So
Hmm.
I didn't
Hmm.
really have a choice. But I had
Hmm.
started kind of my orchestra stuff, my entrepreneurial stuff, like way back
Hmm.
in college. It was more like as a side passion kind of thing.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, so I would say like my tip is like, you do have to be aware of, like, your financial situation,
Mm.
but, think about what you're passionate about and see if there's a way to monetize it, because I
Yeah.
think you'll be more likely to stick to something long term if you're
Mm.
passionate about it rather than if you're
So
just doing
true.
it for the money.
Yeah, 100%. I love that. And De Leon here said, be business minded, but never lose your childlike wonder. That's so well said. So true.
Yes.
It's a combination of passion with the entrepreneurial mindset in the way that you can give value to others, right? Yeah.
Mhm, yeah.
And Serene here, Yachin, says have 3 to 6 months of salary saved up. She also has a business, so she knows what she's talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's funny. I'm just gonna add like a little side story to that. Most people do say it's about 6 months to at even 1 year of savings, emergency funds, just in case. So now that you talk about, seeing your idol and meeting like celebrities, I had my own kind of experience with that with Lewis House. So he's a
Oh my god.
self-development, yeah, type of,
That
I guess, yeah, a self-development, I guess, not guru, but like a speaker slash interviewer. So very similar to what I do. And I got onto a one-on-one coaching call with him, I would say 2 months ago. And he suggested the same thing. I was asking, like, when do you know to transition yourself from, your corporate job to your passion? And he was saying 6 months, right? And then I was like, but I kind of have 10 years.
oh yeah.
And so and he was teasing me on how um wow, like we're just very security driven, right? In a way, it's like 10 years of savings or 10 years of runaway is not even enough, like to feel safe enough to kind of take the leap of faith, right? At least like
Mhm.
in my case, it's like if I'm not making any money and seeing it grow, like I don't have the trust muscle for me to kind of go cold turkey and take the leap. So I guess everyone's comfort level is different, but it's good to figure out, like, to have some backup plan, because I know some people
Mhm.
have parents as backup, but in my case, I don't really. So that makes a difference, right? And yeah, just understanding what, I guess, comfort level you're at really makes a big difference, because I know COVID really brought up a lot of stuff in terms of asking yourself if you even want to kind of stay in your old job, and a lot of people are asking if they want to become
Mhm.
entrepreneurs, and I think this is a really valid conversation that caters to a lot of people too. So thank you
Yeah.
so much for sharing your insight.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think the way I look at it is, well, this is I have a lot more free time than I used to. Why not use this as an
Mm,
opportunity to kind of start my own business?
yeah, yeah, that's great. Are there any obstacles that you're facing right now, or like, or realizations or lessons you've learned so far
Um, you
in
mean in
terms of
terms of
like being an entrepreneur?
well, I'm still trying to figure things out,
Yeah.
because I feel like I'm still at the beginning. So,
Mm,
I guess part of it is kinda you have to build it up, and you
yeah.
have to
It takes
get
time.
people yeah, it takes time for people to, like, know who you are and follow you. So,
Yeah.
I guess I'm trying to figure out more ways to find more opportunities to,
Yes.
connect with other people and
Yeah, and that's exactly why you're here, right? You reach out and then you're
yeah.
talking to more people, and but the first step is getting over that fear, and that's exactly what
Mhm.
you're doing. Yeah, I
Yeah.
love that. That's amazing. Um, I guess what else? Because we were so good with this conversation. We talked about so much in like half an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, whoa, this is like way faster than we thought. So if I know, well, okay, I'm gonna go off a little bit off a tangent, because I know you like the what is it called? The 16 personalities, the Myers-Briggs type of test as
Mhm.
well. And you're an INFP, right?
Mhm, right.
Yeah, yeah. And I know most INFP are into like social justice as well. I wonder if you have that in you.
Um, I would say I'm more an artist.
Mm,
My focus is on, art and beauty because I feel like,
mm,
uh, I guess from my experience with music and, the arts, I've have so many amazing experiences that,
yeah,
so let me give you an example. With my, Gamer Symphony Orchestra, I would say the people that join the group are, like people who play video games or
right.
they're musicians, and I guess the nerd culture is not seen as, like, I mean, there's stereotypes about it.
Right.
Like they might have been bullied or things like that. So I
Mm.
noticed that a lot of the people who join my community, once they found the orchestra, they felt like the whole world opened up for them. Like
Oh.
their
Oh,
social
that's so
their
amazing.
social circle just exploded, and they have it's
Wow.
not just meeting one person that shares your passion of video game music.
Mm.
There's 100 people, and I like to call it playing an orchestra with 100 of your best friends.
Oh,
And
that's
it's
amazing.
it's such a I like to call it, so I notice before every time we have, a performance,
Mhm.
people get so excited, like, they're so excited, "I get to play Dancing Man from Final Fantasy VI," or "I get to play, Hikari from Kingdom Hearts." And, there's just a sense of it there's some kind of high, or some people get so
Yeah.
excited. And then what's really interesting is that, because we've been kinda short on resources, it takes a lot to start an orchestra.
Mhm.
So we've had to be very creative with, how we do our things. So one of the things that some of the people organized that came after me, for my video game orchestra, was that they, they invited the composers of the video
Mm.
games. So these are like, we talked about before, like
That's so cool.
celebrities.
Yeah.
These like are heroes, and when you actually get to meet them and they come to the concert to watch the music that you play of their music, it's such a special
Oh,
experience,
yeah. For
you know?
everybody. For even the person who created the music, for the person playing the music, it just like that whole community, that connection, I can sense it. Even from like you totally light up when you were talking about that experience. I can feel your passion off the
Yeah.
screen. Now I'm a feeler. That's why I'm like getting teary-eyed because I felt that from you. And
Yeah.
I love it. And thank you so much for sharing because it's like it's amazing. And I'm sure a lot of people want to see where they can see your work. So I know you have a few handles. Do you mind sharing what they are so they can go find you?
Sure. So, I run my Gamer Symphony Dreams podcast slash YouTube channel. So it's at GSO Dreams. That's for that one. And then I have a violin cover channel where I play video game music. It's called
Mhm.
Meowsicle. So I'll spell that for you.
Oh,
It's like combining the words meow from like a cat and musical. So it's spelled MEOWSICAL. VGM. VGM stands for video game music. So it's Meowsicle VGM. And I have a YouTube channel. I'm also on Facebook and Twitter. And I also have a Twitch channel for that. And I'm actually, if anyone's interested, I'll be streaming tonight at 8 p.m.
oh,
Eastern Standard Time. So if anybody wants to join for a chill night, I would love to have you.
yeah.
Um, and then I have, my personal social media on, Twitter and Instagram. It's at GSO Founder. So if
Okay.
you just wanna that's just my personal one.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I know you have a website as well, and we can basically find all that information there, right?
Yeah, my website is www.michelleengmusic.com.
Okay, I think that would be
Yeah,
the easiest for people to find all those different social media platform. That's so
yeah.
amazing. Yeah, if anybody have any more questions, she's still here. Michelle is still here. And
Mhm.
then otherwise, it was such a lovely conversation. Thank you so much for sharing all your stories because they've been like so impactful. You are doing so much to the community. Like you're saying, like what touched me the most was when you talked about changing lives, really, of like now I want to cry because I'm so happy for you that that you open up the world for other introverts in a way, right? So I think that's so beautiful, and allowing people to see a possibility and connecting the whole world together through music and video games and combining all the passions together with your creativity. So thank you so much for everything that you do.
Yeah, I would also add that, it's not just one orchestra that has one
Mm,
group of people that are interested in this orchestra.
mm,
I'm also I kind of am in contact with at least 10 other video game orchestras all around the world.
wow.
So there's several of us in the United States. Also, there's 4 in the UK and Ireland. So there's a lot of people doing this stuff, and I'm looking at the professional touring orchestras. There's a lot that are coming up in 2021 and 2022.
Mm,
So, I think it's only gonna grow and continue to get bigger, and I think part of the reason for this is because there's a need for people to feel like they belong to something,
yeah.
and something that's bigger than themselves, I would say. So,
Mhm.
if you look at video games, a lot of them are about, like, adventure, about, courage, about overcoming difficulties, and so there's a kind of mythology that's embodied in it that, I think
Mm,
people need in their lives. They need their lives to feel meaningful, and I think video games and the orchestral music that comes from that is meaningful, especially when you can be an orchestra, with all these people who have this childhood nostalgia, and to put it all together and perform with your family and friends. It's just it's an incredible
oh,
experience.
yeah, I can imagine. So Diwa here said, "What is the biggest challenge for starting a new video game orchestra?"
Well, it depends what at what level you wanna start it. So there's, university-based orchestras like student clubs, there's, community orchestras. So community orchestras, usually they're volunteer musicians, and, they do it because they love music, and they have, like, different day job, and then you have the professional level, which the musicians are being paid as professionals. So it depends on which orchestra. I would say for student-run orchestras, I think I think the biggest, beginning, challenges are just trying to get it started, so finding the rehearsal space on campus, um, arranging sheet music, uh, getting organized and deciding who does what for the duties and things like that. I think
Yeah.
that's something that can be, new for students who haven't done it
Mhm,
before.
mhm,
For community orchestra, it also has the same issues as the student groups, but there's another layer on top.
mhm,
The reason is because when you're in a school orchestra, you're in a student club, you have the support and the structure of the school. Like, for
mhm,
example, there's a place you can go to register a student club. There's resources available of how you can have, like, you have to have a president and a treasurer maybe, and there's guidance on that, and then you can talk to other student clubs how they run it. And then, like, I would say everything's centralized on campus, so it's just easier, I think, for a lot of the logistics. But when you come to a community orchestra, you kind of have to, you're a little bit more on your own. So you have to find a
mm,
space that's, you have to figure out what space you want to use. And you have to figure out how to fundraise. Like with the
mhm,
student groups, the student clubs, you'll get allocated some money from the student, like, club money, or the student government will give you some money. But when you're like a nonprofit, for example, you have to kind of get the money yourself. So it's more effort, and then you have to worry about things like, how do we do the accounting? How do we do fundraising? How do we
wow.
how do we deal with, donations? How do we approach guest artists and work with them? And how do we do it in a way that's professional? Um, so there's more things to think about. And then when you go to the professional level, you have to pay these people. So you have to worry about payroll, and you have to worry about, like, the musicians, and making sure that, you're scheduling. Well, scheduling applies to everything, but there's, like, another layer when it's professional.
Mhm,
Um, so I would say, um, I think I think it's I would say maybe, like, the beginning is harder to get started, but you also wanna be able to lay the right framework, or the right foundation, so that it's gonna be successful long term. And I
mhm,
think one of the challenges is that you have to have, like, a clear mission statement. And
mm,
I one thing I would say is that um you have to be careful about mission drift, because it's very easy to get very ambitious or something like that, and to kind of stray from your mission. So,
mm.
these are things that I think are applicable to whatever type you're doing. But those are
Interesting, I've
just some
never heard
examples.
that. Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you so much
Yeah,
for that level of detail too, like at
yeah.
every single level. That really explains a lot. And mission drift, can you elaborate on that? I've never heard of that. So
Yeah,
you're just drifting
mission.
away from your mission?
Yeah, it kind of happens, it's like, I would say, it's like you have a certain mission statement that you've decided on,
Mhm,
but
mhm,
then you're adding more things on top of that, like, and it gets more complicated. And
mm,
I'm trying to think of a good example off the top of my head, but it's like, let's say you want to do like just a reading session orchestra where the main purpose or the mission of the orchestra is just to read music, no concert,
mhm,
just to do a reading session. Um, so if you're doing mission drift, then maybe you're like, okay, we're gonna do gigs. If someone hires us, oh, we're gonna do our we're gonna do concerts. We're gonna go into the schools and do educational outreach. We're gonna do this and that, and sometimes that's part of the mission for some orchestras. But it's like you kind of become more cloudy or muddy about
mm.
um, like why do you exist, basically.
And then you can take clear actions to get there because it's like when your mission is so all over the place, then your actions become all over the place, and then your audience get lost. And so I guess that totally makes sense. If your goalpost is clear, it's just a lot easier to navigate. So it's just like a
Hmm.
business as well, what you're
Hmm.
doing. So like, there's so many skill sets involved, and you're doing like amazing and helping the world too. So thank you again so much for being on. I know you have to also get ready soon too for your next performance. So if you guys have any questions afterwards, if you're watching a replay, feel free to type in the comments below, and Michelle might be able to answer. And I'll also type in your information in the comments below if anybody's interested in following. Thank you
Yeah,
again.
it's my
And
pleasure, Clover. Thank you
yeah,
so
thank you
much.
for watching, everybody. Bye now.
Bye.
Bye.